Hello and welcome back to another episode. Now today I just want to share with you 5 key things which have really impressed me while playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. These things have convinced me that this game has not only met my personal hype level, which was really quite high, but it's surpassed it and it's elevated this game to something really beyond anything else I've ever experienced as a computer game. And I just want to share with you 5 things, spoiler free, which have made an impression on me in the past couple of days, I suppose. I got the game yesterday, and in total I've played it probably for around about between 10 and 12 hours. But last night I went to bed having dyed my clothes purple, picked up a horse, and apparently gained a stalker. Yeah, that guy couldn't take their eyes off me. That was a bit unnerving. But but I picked up the adventure this morning, continued to explore pretty much all day through all weathers, and I'm convinced that this game really does deserve the hype, and 10 out of 10 is a very reasonable score for a game of this excellence. I suppose the first thing that really struck me with this game was just the beauty of it. There was a moment on the plateau, which is early on in the game. It's part of the sort of essentially the opening section, almost like a tutorial area. And the moon had risen in the night sky, and I was running up a hillside, and I was just awestruck by the beauty of this game. Every blade of grass was tipped with silver from moonlight. I saw a shooting star fly across the sky, and it felt as though I was in and playing a high-end anime, a Studio Ghibli Miyazaki feature film. So the majesty of that is something which, at various points throughout the 12 hours that I've played, just strikes. Every now and then you just want to stop what you're doing and almost take a screenshot and maybe even frame it, put it on the wall. This game it's breathing art in that sense. And the clue is in the title. This whole thing is a living, breathing, wild world, and that's exemplified perfectly actually by the weather. The way in which the weather changes in this game is subtle, and it's at times unexpected, just like the real weather, but also it has such an impact on gameplay, so as to produce moments of unrepeatable brilliance, but also at the same time as well just moments of just beauty. So for example, there was a moment when I came out of a shop and it was raining outside, and the horse was wet, so the horse was shaking off all the water from its mane and sort of reared back and was enjoying the rain as well. And it made me smile. It really made me smile. It's just the details, the little moments which create this sort of magical kind of atmosphere. But not only that, but also rain has a direct effect on gameplay. I mean, we all know about the fact that you can't climb up rocks as easily when it's raining, but in particular there was a moment when I was trying to get a flame from one place to another, and there were certain lamps along the way where you could sort of light these lamps to keep the flames safe as you progressed. But I was just having to wait. I was having to wait for the rain to go away before I could continue on my mission to carry this flame. It reminded me, first of all, of being back home in North Wales, because it's so rainy. But also, more than this, it reminded me that the world, the weather, the environment was what it was in charge. It is a living, breathing world. And beyond the weather, there are so many chance encounters, things which happen that just come out of the clever and sophisticated engine that Nintendo have created for Breath of the Wild. This isn't a spoiler because this is just completely random, but I came across, for example, some people being attacked by bokoblins, and so I was able to jump off my horse, get involved with that, save these people, and it didn't start a quest. It wasn't a set moment where from then on you'd return to these people. I may never see them again. But out of the engine, out of the fact that the AI is working like that, and the way in which the animals move, and the way in which, for example, you can hunt animals, I really appreciate the fact that in this game when you shoot a wild boar, for example, it doesn't just run away from you, it runs out of sight. And there's a key difference there. In some games, when you're, for example, in Assassin's Creed games, when you're doing hunting, you shoot the deer, and if you don't get the heart, it's just gone. And that may well be kind of realistic, I suppose. But I appreciate the fact that if you shoot a wild boar, for example, in this game, or a deer or whatever, it will kind of run out of sight over the crest of the hill, and if you follow it, you try and track it, and there's no complicated tracking mechanics that they tried to do, for example, in Assassin's Creed 3. It's just intuitive. You follow it, and then you can catch up with it. And if you're careful, if you're crouching, you can get your shot off again and get the food that you require from that animal. The behaviour of the world really influences gameplay, and it just sucks you in. This is a detail orientated game, but it is rich, and so the details are everywhere for you to see and for you to appreciate. It is truly excellent. And the fact that actually little things like Zelda conventions are really being toyed with in this game. I mean, we all know about the fact that you can't, for example, just get hearts by cutting grass. You have to eat food to gain health. But actually, more than this, it's even things like, for example, it's hard. This is really hard to explain. But there was a moment when I was approaching a town, and I was expecting somehow this game to sort of become a conventional Zelda game. Almost as though the world would just sort of shrink in a little bit, like you've gone into a valley or something, and this is the branch of the map that is the desert almost. This kind of sort of sensation that you get, especially for example from the N64 game and from for example from Twilight Princess, almost like a corridor of a particular type of environment. But that's not what happens. It's much more subtle than that, and even the transitions from inside to outside they're just as subtle but also just as astonishing. You don't open a door and then wait for a load, wait for the interior to load. You just open the door and you're in a building. This is a knitted together, nuanced, beautiful game, and it holds up. It holds up really well. And all this talk about frame rates and this kind of thing are kind of misleading. Because, for example, on the Wii U, I've only had minimal frame rate issues. Yes, okay, when there's lots of enemies on the screen, there's the occasional frame rate drop, but nothing dramatic. There's nothing actually that stops the game and it jutters like this. It just maybe just pauses for a second and then carries on. It's beautiful, and this is why I'm making this video. Yesterday's video was all about, I suppose, my first moments with the game, but now having had my first hours with the game, it's truly been a magical experience. I mentioned that, for example, I was able to dye my clothes purple, and that was great. The characters that you meet in this game are magnificent as well. But beyond sort of things like dyeing your clothes purple, there's also the fact that actually you can play with the physics of the game as well. And again, I know there's also been made of this in the marketing for Breath of the Wild, but I can't express to you just how joyful it is to have an idea and say, oh, I wonder if this would work. It might work, and then see it happen. And it's not something that's been set up. It's not something that's been, or if it has been set up, it's been set up so subtly that you feel as though you are discovering the idea for yourself. For example, there was an encampment that I was thinking, I wonder if I could freeze these items here with time, these explodable items with my cryonis. Is it cryonis? With the time stopping rune. And then hit the item repeatedly, and they will hopefully launch over the river and decimate that camp. And I thought, I think that might work. And so I picked up the stuff, I lined it up, and I set it going, and sure enough it worked. And I was laughing my ass off. My wife was watching me, she was just on the couch there, and she could see how much I was enjoying the fact that there was an idea, there was a logic, and this game allowed that logic to follow through. It's a creative engagement that you have with the game, precisely because everything makes sense. For example, I mentioned in the video I did yesterday, you don't have to roll into trees to get stuff from the trees. You pick fruits from the trees. That makes sense, doesn't it? You do have to, for example, cook food. You have to when the way that you treat your horse, for example, is a way that you should treat your horse. You can't do some of the things that you do in Skyrim, for example, with horses in this game. And I suppose ultimately, I guess the most truly satisfying thing about this game is the need to adapt. It's the fact that you have to adapt everything that you know about Zelda, and in that sense, I was quite scared. I mean, last night I was sort of saying to my wife, I think I'm just slipping into old ways of playing Zelda. I need to deliberately break away from, for example, from the story and go and just play the game, explore the world. And so today I've been doing a bit more of that. But it's the way that it calls you to adapt. It encourages you to come and adapt to the world that they've created for you, and then it rewards you for that adaptation. You need to adapt, for example, it's literally your clothes. If you don't adapt the clothes that you're wearing, not only in terms of armor, but also in terms of, for example, adapting to the cold weather, then you will suffer for that. You need to adapt your fighting. The fighting in this game, the mechanics, yes, they've gone back in some ways to, I suppose, Wind Waker, in terms of the mechanics and how it feels, especially for some of the things like in terms of dodges and some of the bonuses you get in terms of action if you time yourself right. But that's not really doing it justice. The combat in this game, because of the weapons and the breakability of the weapons, it is subtly engaging and challenging, and at every single combat engagement you have, you're having to be there. You're having to be present in the moment, and there's a genuine risk of death with pretty much everything that you meet. And in that sense, planning, you have to adapt. You have to adapt to the whole world by planning, for example, something as simple as the way that you're going to travel through the world. So for example, climbing the dual peaks that you can see off to the east from the plateau. To get to the top of those, you have to very carefully plan your route up, making use of your abilities, but also gauging it by eye and adapting when it goes wrong. It's a thing of beauty. It really is truly a thing of beauty, and they've gone they've gone beyond what I thought Zelda could be, but also what I thought Nintendo could achieve. Actually, last night I put on Facebook for my friends to see a little message. Yeah, so around about 10 past midnight last night, I sort of said this to one of my friends on Facebook. Bravo, Nintendo, well worth the wait. The best of so many ideas colliding to make a Zelda game reminiscent of a Bethesda/Elder Scrolls title combined with a Studio Ghibli animation. And that is precisely what playing this game is like. And the density and the beauty of this game is a powerful combination. And as much as yesterday I was just thrilled to be playing it, today I feel honoured to be able to experience it. Because I know there are some people out there who haven't been able to get the game yet, and frankly there are some people out there, there were some of my, I've got a couple of friends who sadly died too soon and weren't able to play this game. This is an honour, and I understand that. So I just wanted to revisit my first few moments, and my first few hours with this game, and just sort of record these impressions, partly for me, but also obviously for anyone else who's interested. As ever guys, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.